Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. We are 8 days out from the trial of Richard Allen, who is accused of killing Abby and Libby in Delphi, February 13th, 2017. The much anticipated trial is just around the corner as we count down. Welcome in, everybody. Tambi, Jari, Rescue All the Dogs, CJK, Linda Harders, Ziggy, Mustang, Sparky, D, good to see you. Beth, welcome in. And everybody else that I missed, welcome. Good to see you. Red Queen, hope everybody's having a great day. Sheila Burnett, looks like you're in Indiana. Highly anticipated trial. Still some people out there that do not believe they have a whole lot of evidence against Richard Allen. Some even believe that he's being railroaded. Others have bought into the Odinism stuff. Which does not look like it will be allowed into the trial, well, at least not as of right now. What's up, Shelly? Shout out to Surprise. Always good to see you, D. Sensei, how are you? Oh, yeah, Hurricane Milton. It's going to be a tough one. Christine, how are you? What's up, Gambies? Safe travels. Have a good day at work. Prayers to your son and daughter. I'm sure they'll be okay. CJK, never railroaded, no proof. They just don't like what happened with their poster boy for all Americans. Good guy. Welcome in, Remy. Oh, really? Pray tell. What's up, Jer? Good to see you. Jer or Jer? Timmy? Okay, so I think I'm going to start with an article and a video put out by Fox. This article is from the Journal and Courier. It's by Virginia Black. Thought she did a pretty good job on it. But we will go to this video first. Dang, that's loud. I'm going to have to turn that down a little bit. GP, good to see you. Timmy, how you doing? If you guys have any issues with this audio, let me know. Sounds really loud on my end, so I have it turned down quite a bit. I want to make sure you guys can hear it.
Jury selection in the Delphi double murders trial is scheduled to start next week. Richard Allen is charged with the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. The jury will be selected in Fort Wayne before the trial moves to Delphi. Fox News 9 Trust McQuaid has visited that town dozens of times since the murders. He went back today to see how Delphi is preparing for the trial.
Starting next week, the Indiana criminal justice and true crime media world will descend here on the Carroll County Courthouse in downtown Delphi for the Richard Allen trial. I came up here today to find out if this small Indiana town is ready.
Ann Hughes was doing Diane Norton's nails at the Sassy Salon just off the town square in downtown Delphi, where Richard Allen goes on trial next week. His case comes nearly 2 years after he was arrested for the 2017 murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. The murders made national headlines. This month, Delphi police, Carroll County Sheriff's deputies, and Indiana State Police troopers will button up the square, blocking off a courthouse entrance and side street and strictly enforcing 2-hour parking to keep the anticipated chaos to a minimum so that business and life can go on, well, maybe not as usual, but as normal as possible, considering the circumstances.
You know, the restaurants, of course, will be a lot busier, and the other shops that are in town. But, I mean, we're going to be busier than normal, obviously, with traffic in town. But I think that they've done a great job preparing for that as best as we can, being a small community. We can't make it any bigger than it is to create spaces for everyone. But I think they're doing a great job prepping for it.
Special Judge Fran Gull says she'll run this court 6 days a week once testimony begins a week from Friday. In downtown Delphi, Russ McQuaid, Fox 59 News.
Russ, thank you. The Delphi double murder.
Little boots on the ground from Russ. So they're going to have it limited to 2-hour parking. And what does that mean? Gull's going to be running it 6 days a week? And it looks like jury selection is not in Delphi. It's going to be in another county. Welcome in, MF Witchy Widow. Who else did I miss? Oh, Frankie Christian. Hope you're having a good day at work. Phil Bond, what's up? Audra, welcome in. Annabelle. In Scotland. How's it going out there? Pitbull, welcome in. Jer says jury will be selected in Allen County. So I'm going to read this article here. Journal and Courier. Delphi jurors won't hear about Odinism, but it still lingers over murder trial. Shout out to Virginia Black. She put this out a few hours ago. Sounds like fun. Okay, so they're going to have Saturdays. I don't know a whole lot about the trial process. All right, let's read this here. When a search party found the bodies of Delphi teenagers Abby Williams and Libby German in the late morning of February 14th, 2017, they had been missing about 22 hours. Defense attorneys for suspect Richard Allen, who would be arrested and charged with the girls' deaths more than 5 years later, have since described the scene as ghoulish. One of the girls was found at the base of a tree with 4 tree branches of various sizes intentionally placed in a specific pattern. Well, I don't know about a specific pattern on her naked body, which was covered in spots of blood. The attorneys wrote in a detailed memorandum outlining their alternate theory of who killed the girls. The other girl was discovered a few feet away at an angle, defense attorneys wrote in the court document. Her arms and legs were posed at different angles, fully clothed, with no blood on the clothing. She was likely murdered while naked and then dressed by the murderers after she expired, they wrote. And after the blood had stopped spilling from her neck. Looks like that was all taken from the Frank's memo. Hey, DP, Sleuth, can you answer this trial question? Can they delay the trial once jury selection has occurred? I'm not the one to ask about that kind of stuff. But I'm sure somebody out there might be able to answer that question. Maybe even in the replay crew. Defense attorneys Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rosie ultimately lost their bid to present their alternative theory to the jury in Allen's murder trial later this month, after Special Judge Francis Gold denied their motion to do so. Gold did not close the door entirely on Allen's defense, noting the court will allow Allen's attorneys to argue during trial while the evidence should be admitted. These offers of proof are done outside the presence of jurors. So if they can find a nexus, it will be admitted. What's up, badass? Ooh, super chat from Miss Doglover. Thank you so much. I'm probably not allowed to say, and I don't want to distract from this important case, but there is a certain YouTuber in Florida in the middle of the hurricane. How desperate are these people for views? He may actually die. Who's that? Talking about Ruckus? I haven't heard from Ruckus. GP says, please, everyone in chat, pray for Florida tonight. Audra, just want it all to be over for the family and loved ones. Welcome in, Kitty, says Justice for Abby and Libby. Thank you so much. Oh, JLR. Yeah, that dude's crazy. He's like turning into a storm chaser. What's up, Purple? Audrey, welcome in. All right, let's continue on here. Baldwin and Rosie's memo named several law enforcement investigators, including officers with Indiana State Police and the FBI, who theorized of possible Odinistic involvement in the girls' deaths. The judge ruled that no physical evidence existed and the theory would only serve to confuse jurors. And I agree with that. But the evidence will still almost certainly include descriptions of what investigators found at the scene, which the defense team linked to white nationalists who hijacked a pagan Norse religion called Odinism. Followers of such a movement would have killed the girls using rituals they co-opted from that religion. They set and left behind such symbols as runes made from the tree branches. Here's what experts say about the god Odin, Old Norse religions, and how some white supremacists have come to associate violence with Odinism. Oh, now that makes a little more sense why you guys were saying YouTubers desperate, or how desperate are these people for views? I don't know. That dude gets a lot of views. It's like every time I go to his channel, he has like another 100,000 subscribers. He's pretty busy, dude. Thank you, Sparky. If you guys want to shoot me an email, there it is. Appreciate that. All right, let's continue on here. From commerce to violence. More than 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, Odin is believed to be one of hundreds or even thousands of gods worshipped by Nordic people before the advent of Christianity. But there's holes in our understanding that you can drive Mack trucks through, said Scott Meller, a professor in German, Nordic, and Slavic Scandinavian studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. What we don't know is greater than what we do know. For instance, a colleague took a call from the filmmakers of Disney's Frozen. They wanted an example of an old Viking marriage ritual. He said, "We don't have one." Reference to Odin emerged as a god of commerce, but they increasingly associated Odin with war, and then with death. It isn't long, Meller said, that Odin is associated with people who become Vikings, a profession, not a people, by the way. The few texts we have that refer to the practice of Odinism were few and written, by this time in the 1500s, by Christians whose misunderstandings of the pagan religions led to exaggerated language and motifs, Meller said. They were violent, there's no doubt about that. Meller said that those early humans, but nobody thinks they were as violent as those descriptions. No real evidence exists that human sacrifices were made to Odin, he said. What sacrifices there were? We think those were willing sacrifices, but we're not sure about that yet. In the Viking Age, animal sacrifices were not common but did happen. If a ritual was devoted to Odin, for example, he said, it would have been in the hope of, I'm about to go into battle, and I'm trying to ensure the battle will go well. Vikings would kill you, Meller said, but there's not a lot of evidence there was a lot of torture going on. Neo-pagans, sometimes white supremacist groups, try to blend beliefs and rituals to further their own causes. Descriptions in the defense memo of how the two girls were found, including tree branches placed in certain ways, evokes a blood brother ritual, Meller said. This definitely is ritual. All right, let's pause there. Go to the chat. Purple Amarilla says, does anybody remember the Chilean miners? They drilled down and sent a pod to collect them one by one. It was streamed, delayed, live, and when the pod made it down, suddenly revealed cameras in the cave. What the hell? I think so, Beth. I could be wrong. Hey, kitty cat. It says, I'm proudly Norwegian. I'm Norwegian, too. Part Norwegian. Norwegian, German, and Swedish. Hey, Julia. What in the actual what is going on? Clearly not up to date. The case. Oh, my. Good to see you, Julia. All right. I think this is the final part of the article. You cannot prove or disprove faith. When defense attorneys offered their complicated theory of why their client was wrongly implicated in the Delphi case, they included allegations of law enforcement ignoring the involvement of known Odinist who posted photos on social media they say looked remarkably like scenes from where the girls were found. To summarize, the crime scene is chocked full of signs of cult involvement, they wrote in their memo a year ago. The defense court document also accuses correctional officers in the state prison system guarding Richard Allen while wearing various patches on their Indiana Department of Correction uniforms with Odinistic symbols that read, "In Odin we trust." I think they even had one that said, "I hate people," which is very strange. In affidavits later entered into the court docket, Westville Correctional Facility officers Randy Jones and Joshua Robinson admitted they wore at the time, but later removed patches that can be associated with Odinism. They deny being part of a cult or hate group. Norse paganism, heathenry is my practicing religion, Jones wrote in an affidavit filed a year ago. The patches pay the utmost respect to my religious higher power, the same way a Christian person would wear a cross, Robinson wrote in his affidavit. But Odinism, also known by other names such as Asatru, is a growing threat around the country, according to a senior research analyst with the Intelligence Project at the Southern Poverty Law Center, who asked not to be identified because of the danger associated with the work he does. The worship of Odin, which is millennia old, is attracting new followers among white supremacists because, as he asks, you don't get older or whiter than Norse gods, do you? With the growth of white supremacy, generally around the country, he said he would be surprised if there weren't pockets of violent followers in Indiana. His group has recently been watching and growing assembly in Tennessee with alarm. Most such groups are peaceful, he said, but there are individuals with them who have committed acts of violence, that's for sure. A strain of Odinists run through prison gangs, he said. There's a lot of Norse imagery that goes with Nazi imagery and prison tattoos. It is not out of the question that whoever killed Abby and Libby considered themselves religious. Anything can be perverted, anything. You cannot prove or disprove faith, he said. It is both the most wonderful thing and the most dangerous thing. Good to see you, Celia. Welcome in. I joined late. Figured out. Proceed, y'all. Proceed. Fashionably late. Hey, Periwinkle. Good to see you. All right, guys, we're 8 days out. How are we feeling about this trial? Let's hear it. Get it off your chest. Miss Dog Lover, I'm eating McDonald's. I'm a bad person. You heathen. Celia says, I'm Irish, German, and Austrian. That's quite the mix. I'm Native American, too. I don't know. I guess you could call it Spanish Indian. No worries. Sometimes I see people say, part one, and then they'll continue with another comment and they'll say part two. I always find that helpful. Jairus is more clueless than ever. I still feel like once they get the jury selected, they get a good idea. Richard Allen gets a few opportunities to sit down with his family, with his attorneys, and just discuss what they want to do. I think then he'll make his final decision. But I still believe he's going to go ahead and plead guilty. I'm going to say no later than the 23rd. If he's going to do it at all. Now, I hope they go through this trial process. That way we can at least learn a little bit about the why. And one thing we've learned about these types of killers is there's never really a good reason, right? There is no good reason. But at least you want to hear something like, oh, this was because of revenge, or somebody did something horrible to my family, you know. But instead, we're going to hear something along the lines of, well, I was stressed out. I've always had these weird fantasies, and for whatever reason, I couldn't contain myself that day. And I didn't want to get caught, so I had to kill them to keep them quiet. What's up, Inquisitive? Thank you, Sparky. Says justice for Libby and Abby. Mustangs. It's probably be Heinz 57 if I did DNA. Ketchup and A1. A little bit of paste picante. What's up, Johnny Blaze? The Laura Boone. That one seems really odd. I don't know what to make of the Laura Boone trial. Welcome in, Johnny. So we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Some things that I've put together for today, and what I've been going over is mainly the timeline. I mean, it's looking pretty solid. Not really the timeline. I guess we can refer to it as the crime flow. You know, from the moment that Richard Allen is captured on the Hoosier Harvester camera all the way until they have the muddy and bloody guy. A McChicken sandwich. CJK says, it's still very concerning that so many crazy YouTube folks are meddling. Still, instead of letting the system work, so worried Allen will be convicted. Yeah, you're never going to be able to control that. That's with every case. You know, that's part of the human factor. The biggest variable there is, right? The human factor. Mustang says justice for Abby and Libby. Purple says, damn it, that's a good idea. I always find it helpful. I mean, I begin the live streams a little bit confused anyway, so anything that helps. Definitely a cesspool. It's their bed. They can lie in it. Hey, Stephanie, good to see you. How are you? What's going on with you? Let's hear your guys' predictions here. You've heard mine. Are we going to see them go through the entire process? Is the jury going to go down to the crime scene, or is Gold going to deny that? Hey, Solar Chef Steph. Hoping you're all doing. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Kitty says, love is my religion and this earth is my church. That's nice. I can dig that. So, Sensei, curious to know if he does think he did something wrong or if he tries to justify it. I don't know. I have a feeling he's just going to be himself. Quiet Rick Allen. You know, I've been able to establish a few sources that are pretty close to Richard Allen. They went to school with him from elementary all the way through high school. They even drove with him all the way from elementary through high school. Said that his adopted father, who married his biological mother, was a very prominent man in Mexico. I think a principal there of the middle school. I could be wrong about that, but he's definitely a principal. I don't know if it was the high school, middle school, whatever. But I guess he was a very important person there. And they tell me that Richard Allen was the quietest. And I've spoken with 3 people that know him. They all say the same thing. The quietest person they've ever met. Julia, Bob Ross. Don't get me started. Yeah, try to stay away from McDonald's. But every once in a while, their breakfast just sounds so good. Mustang, I think the Lulu might have gotten blocked. I'll unblock her because I'm sure they just need to change their name. They had something in there about swatting and all that. I don't find that amusing. So if they want, they can send me an email and I'll figure it out. I didn't want to block them entirely. I just wasn't in the mood for any of the shenanigans. I don't think that's funny. Some things you can't joke about. Sparky's a little Delulu. There you go. Linda, do you think they will show the Harvest Store footage with the car going by? 100% they will. You haven't heard too much from the defense, so there was a little bit of a debate about what type of vehicle it was. Mainly, that information comes from the probable cause affidavit, but the defense memo definitely harped on it. But if you look at the Ford Focus hatchback, which is what Richard Allen had, you could easily mistake it for a PT Cruiser, which is a small hatchback type SUV, or an electric smart car. That's what it looks like. So the prosecution is going to try to convince that jury that the vehicle that they can see at 127 passing by the Hoosier Harvest Store heading towards the CPS building is Richard Allen's 2016 Ford Focus, which is a hatchback. So, yep, I do believe that they will show that video. And in my personal opinion, it's going to be much more clear than what the defense would like us to believe. Hey, what's up, Hiawatha? Always good to see you. Me, myself, what's up? I'm behind. Is the trial going to be hidden too? Well, they're going to be able to film it. There's going to be reporters in there reporting, but they're not going to have cameras running live on a delay or anything like that. So I have a feeling the court will be the one picking and choosing what will be released to the public. But I'm sure we're going to see a lot of video clips. We'll see inside that courtroom during the trial, just nothing live or on a delay or anything like that. And there's going to be a whole, I think, 2 rows for reporters. So we'll definitely be covering that to the best of our ability. Maybe a lot of Twitter feeds. Kitty Cat. I'm all hot and bothered. The internet cranks and blaming legacy media for not fighting hard enough to broadcast the trial. I still have a feeling that there's a chance. She gave out the decorum and all the media orders, and it says at any point it could change. So looking at goals past, I still believe that maybe a few days prior, we're going to hear that this will be televised. Probably not. It's just a hunch. And I know that Goal has been fighting to get cameras in the courtroom in Indiana. And she actually finally got him in, to one of the hearings. But it just turned into such a circus, she's just like, we're going to hold off on that. But I think at the last minute, if you read the fine print in the document, it says at any point, these stipulations could change. So I still have faith that it could be televised. Miss Dog Lover. Video of BG was everywhere and spine chilling. I agree with that. Jer says, I'm going to say acquittal. Yeah, you better be prepared for that. Because if they don't have more and all they have is this timeline and this bullet, I mean, they're going to argue back and forth about the bullet. And the jury's going to be advised, hey, look, guys, you have to convict this man without any reasonable doubt. You have to be 100% sure that you're convinced that this man did it. Not, hey, I'm pretty sure, or I think he most likely did it. You have to 100% know that this is a guilty man in your heart. Like, they're going to explain that to the jury. And from what we all can see from the outside looking in, I mean, they're not there. Yes, we have this guy. He looks like the bridge guy, in my opinion. He admitted to being there. We have witnesses that say, hey, he is the bridge guy. That's, the guy we saw is the guy on the bridge. He himself has admitted basically that he's the bridge guy. But he's never admitted 100% officially, like, hey, not only am I the bridge guy, I kidnapped these girls and I was trying to sexually assault them and everything went haywire. And I was afraid they were going to go tell the cops what I did, so I had to kill them. So I think you guys need to be prepared for an acquittal. Maybe even another trial in the future. Mustang says guilty as charged. Jer says, and I'm not sure I want that. Yeah. Well, I mean, if they can't prove the guy's guilty, it's not really about what we want, but I would agree with it. If the jury says, hey, you know what? They just didn't have enough. We're not saying he's innocent. We're just saying, hey, you guys did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is the man. My conscience won't allow me to send this guy to prison for the rest of his life. You failed. It's nothing I'm doing. You failed to prove that to me. It's not like I'm failing Indiana and Delphi and Abby and Libby. The prosecution has failed at that point. But we're going to hear these confessions. We're going to hear probably a whole lot more. I'm even thinking that might even be some new witnesses that have come forward. New information since the arrest. So we'll see. Yeah, you would hope, Hiawatha, but I mean, they really dig in deep. They start generating new evidence and stuff like that. So they can be harmful to cases like this. They start uncovering new evidence, getting close to the accused family members, gleaning information that may not be known to the prosecution. So it can be devastating. Good to see you, Denise. Hello, Ellen. Ellen Kelly. I believe that it is going to be a slam dunk. This evil man is going to wish he had taken a plea. If you guys are like me, as soon as they said, hey, Richard Allen's the guy, I said, there he is. That's the bridge guy. And then, we all went through Kathy Allen's Facebook before she got rid of it or blocked it or whatever. And all those videos from the end of 2016 with Richard Allen walking around in that blue jacket, you're just like, damn, like there he is. That's the guy. But we don't know 100%, right? It's just, I've never seen anything so close. You want to talk about matching the description? I always thought we were looking at a short guy on that bridge. Yeah, and that'll be huge, Stephanie. If Stephanie says, I think the confessions have details. From what I understand, they do. What's up, Tonka? I don't know. I have a bad feeling too many things can go wrong. I hope they have the right person, but I don't know. Yeah, I hope. But they need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, or they need to let him go. They can always retry him with new evidence. But I feel like they have plenty, and I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna plead guilty no later than the 23rd. Yeah, CJK, reaching out, befriending the wife of the accused. There's a lot of stuff going on. Don't get you started. Don't get me started. All right, I won't. Hey, super chat from Sensei Sleuth. I think when you play that video, the pull screeching one, that Odin ritual one, you should forewarn us. It makes my brain hurt. I'll try. Still think there was more than one person involved. I think that you could be right. And the only reason that I hope so is that gives Richard Allen something to bargain with. That gives him incentive to come forward. And I know law enforcement, I know they usually say that because they're not sure. They don't have all of the information about an investigation. So they say things like, well, we don't know. There could be others involved. That was a lot different than what was going on with the Delphi case. I mean, they truly believed it. And I think that has a lot to do with the DNA. Like maybe some kind of unknown DNA or a fingerprint or something. But if that is the case, then I feel like Richard Allen will 100% take a plea deal. But I'm not sure. I just wouldn't be surprised. But all the evidence, I mean, when you look at it, it tells me a story of a opportunistic, disorganized, single suspect. And for all we know, maybe it wasn't opportunistic. Maybe there was an inappropriate relationship going on with one of the girls. CJ, what would be devastating is if there is no conviction and Allen is the killer, no evidence pointing to anyone else, no other arrest, the girls won't get their justice here on Earth. I agree with that. And remember, the .40 caliber information about the unspent shell casing, that was kept private until about a month before Richard Allen was arrested. And then you had some YouTubers that actually broke that information. So they brought that information to the public, and then like a month later, you have Richard Allen being arrested. So I don't know if they just made up this whole lost tip narrative so that they could get a search warrant because they felt like now that the .40 caliber bullet was made public, that Richard Allen would go and get rid of the gun. Once we all start talking about it. Like, oh, did you hear about the .40 caliber unspent bullet they found at the crime scene? The second Richard Allen hears that, he's going to get rid of that gun. So they may have been forced to go after somebody that they've been watching all along. People say, oh, well, that's not realistic. That's just not true. Go look at the David Kallenberger case. They've known who killed him since 2016, and Holman is the lead investigator on that case. They have bomb threat B. Phillips has come forward and made an official statement to Holman saying, hey, I was there when they wrapped up my friend and they threw him in the back of a vehicle. I was there. I saw everybody that did it. I know who killed him. I helped get rid of the body. The thing is, he's a lifelong criminal, drug dealer, calling in bomb threats in Delphi. You know, he's just not a credible witness. Kind of like Keegan Kline. He's admitted to participating in murders. He's just not credible. The human element, the biggest variable of any case, these random nut jobs. Kitty says, how many cameras does the Harvest Store have all around the building? Let's take a look. Thanks, Jer. I had a toy pony. He took big shits. You lost me. Looks like you have one by each door, but the one we're interested in is right here. See if I have a better view. So here's the Hoosier Harvest Store. And the bench was like right here. I think you can kind of see it right there. So the exact moment that Richard Allen is driving right by the Hoosier Harvest Store and being captured on that video, you have the three witnesses taking photographs right here by this bench. I mean, at the exact same time. They're standing right here. He's driving by, heading towards the CPS building. So I doubt that they caught anything on this camera or this camera. But this is the one right here. Oop, sorry. So it'd be just that one. And it's really not that close either. But I mean, they should get a good view of that vehicle. What's up, Cheeks? Welcome in. Yeah, maybe, GP. I'm still holding out, hope for that. Judge Gull has been a big advocate for cameras in the courtroom. I think at the last minute, I think she's going to allow it. I don't think she wants to attract any of these circus clowns, Yep, that's me, Purple. Eternally optimistic. I believe in the power of positive energy. Yep. They don't need cameras either way, right? Badass. Thank you, Sensei. If you guys could, make sure you hit the like button and go share this video on social media. Let's get some more folks in here. Hey, Knockface, with the prediction, this will go to trial with the objective to win on some technical appeal No to the jury visiting the crime scene, just my opinion. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Yeah, they removed a lot. There was like books and boxes and bags. The neighbors called them Macy's bags, but I think they were evidence bags. What are you worried about, Miss Doglover? Specifically. Pit bull mom. I think the jury should visit the bridge and crime scene, but not Richard Allen. I think he would be too distracting and lessen the jury's purpose for being there. In most cases, the accused will go. You know, it's his trial. He has to go. You know, they can't conduct these types of operations without him. But he waived his right. So in this case, it is possible. But typically, you know, he needs to be there. He needs to see what's happening, what they're doing. And I think it would be good for the jury to see the look on his face. If he's the killer of Abby and Libby, I feel like he has certain traits to him or behavioral issues that he cannot control. Yeah, that's true, CJK. Hi, Watt. This is if the defense even tries to bring in one piece of evidence that Goal has ruled out, I'm afraid we'll see a mistrial. Well, everything pertaining to the Odinism stuff is in the discovery. You know, they just tried to cherry pick. So anything that's in the discovery, they can bring forward. They just can't misrepresent it, like they tried to do in the Franks memorandum. You know, they can't say things like, oh, you know, the runes left on the bodies. They can't say things like that. But everything that was pretty much in their theory was information found in the discovery. So they're going to be able to probably kind of present it in a roundabout way. Try to backdoor it a little bit. For instance, you had some of the investigators, for instance, Todd Click, who brought up the fact that they thought it, you know, well, later they recanted that, saying that nobody thought that it was a ritualistic murder, but that they were part of a team that was investigating it, and they thought that that's what they saw, and that there were some experts that came forward. I think his name is Turco, that believed also, that supported that belief. So they cherry picked all of that information. It wasn't a huge part of the investigation, but you had a group that went down the rabbit hole. So the fact that they went down the rabbit hole, the defense is going to be able to talk about that. It's part of the discovery. They can talk about how, oh, well, there was a group of investigators who thought this and thought that, and they spoke with experts who said this. But they can't really bring up how it's tied to Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Elvis Fields, and all those other guys. But they can surely bring up, the evidence that's there in the discovery. Hey, Roy, what's up? Keyword reasonable. Yeah, and it has to be reasonable. Beyond a reasonable doubt. Quotation marks. Reasonable. Thanks for that, Sensei. Scrub report is out, guys. It looks worse than Milton. A disaster. Where's FEMA? I don't know, Stephanie. When you're in an echo chamber, you're always crazier the next day than you were the day before. They did put out a witness list, and I'm waiting for it to become public, but I do believe it is out. I haven't seen any proof that he's being framed. But the whole lost tip thing makes me wonder what the hell's going on. I feel like they were looking at him, but they were so afraid that he would get rid of that gun that their hand was being forced. They did a really good job of keeping that information private. That's right, CJK. That is right. And hopefully the families will get some answers. Whole state of Indiana deserves answers. They're looking at what? 2 million, maybe what'd they say? 4 million? That's fucking crazy. You got defense teams spending 12 grand to go get a photograph that YouTubers got long ago for free. A meaningless photo nonetheless. Indiana should be really upset about that. Spending your hard tax dollars, hard-earned tax money, to go to Georgia to get a photograph that was taken off of Facebook that has nothing to do with anything. 12 grand. Think about what you could do with 12 grand. I don't even know if I could spend that in one day. Miss Doglover, do you think they have recordings of him confessing to his wife over the phone? 100% they do. They're going to play those in court too. Badass, will pro-Allen supporters be allowed to wear T-shirts and hold signs reading Richard Allen is innocent in front of the courthouse? Yep, First Amendment. And they should. It's a great thing about this country. Good old First Amendment. Hiawatha says, Sleuth, I've heard of a few people say they were getting close to family members on both sides. I believe it when I see it. Too much bullshit in this case. Yep, for sure. Mustang. Same Sleuth. As soon as they had him, I knew. Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like that aha moment. It was like, oh, there he is. There's that little short guy I saw on the bridge. You know, he said that from the beginning. Oh man, that looks like Ron Logan, but Ron Logan's too tall. Oh, could it be Keegan Kline? Well, Keegan Kline's even too tall. He's not even very tall. What about Brad Holder? Maybe, but he's like 5'10". I always thought it was a shorter guy. Short and stocky is what I said. So when they arrested Richard Allen, it was like, boom, there you are. Does that mean we know for sure? No. What's going on, Denise? All right, guys, what's your predictions? I got one from Knockface, and he might be 100% right. I'm a overly positive thinker. Well, Ziggy agrees with me. TJ says Bridge Guy had really tiny feet from my view. Well, we now know that Richard Allen wore what, like a size anywhere between 8 and 6. For a grown man, that's tiny feet. Yeah, it's true, Stephanie. Alan says Goal is not going to put up with any shenanigans from the defense or any YouTuber in the court. Oh, man. This case is wild. You got people getting banned from the courthouse. Like, what the hell? It's crazy. Beth says, I'm 99% sure that it's Richard Allen. Still have that 1% for a previous person of interest that's currently in prison, Garrett Kurtz. Yeah, that kind of puts things into perspective, right? How many sickos are around us. You had Keegan Kline running around there. You had Garrett Kurtz, Richard Allen, Brian Chadwell. Yeah, we send our kids out every day. Go have fun. And it's like releasing them into like a lion's den, really. The apex predator is just living amongst us. It's like a lion that's a shapeshifter, right? This monstrous predator. But you can't really see its fangs, you know what I mean? Kind of like a vampire. This apex predator that's 10 times more dangerous than a grizzly bear, than a lion, you know, than a raging bull. Living next door to us, working at the gas station, teaching your children at their elementary school, your brother-in-law that you didn't know was some sicko. I mean, they're everywhere. That's what really bothers me about true crime, is that there's no real, sometimes there's, you know, red flags. But in a lot of these cases, they just don't see it coming. The witnesses are like, I had no idea. You know, wrong place, wrong time. Hey, what's up, Heather? I agree. They absolutely have to prove it. I need to see more during the trial. I totally think Richard Allen is the guy, though. Everybody knows that. Yeah. And it's one thing, you know, to say, hey, it's my opinion. Like, I think. But to say 100%, no, I don't think that I could convict him with what I know. But if I take with what I know, and if they can prove that bullet, you know, they can prove that it was cycled through that gun, and then they add a lot of other information, you know, more facts, yeah, then I can see him getting convicted. Hey, what's up, Shane? How you doing? Badass. I think he would have rolled on the accomplice already. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know, Sensei. I wonder if anybody's going to go out there and make a spectacle out of it. I hope not. Yeah, I agree with that, CJK. Hiawatha, even after Allen was arrested, Carter said, "We haven't cleared anybody." That tells me he's not a lone wolf. Well, that's what they say in every case, right? They don't know. You know, they still have to pull evidence. They got to go through all of the search warrant evidence. They got to digital forensics. They just don't know. They can't come out there and say, "Oh, well, this is absolutely the guy." Because if they say that, then they look like fools, 2 weeks down the road when they're like, "Oh, well, we found evidence that others were involved." But I do feel like this case is different, even though they say that in pretty much every case. I don't know. I felt it was different with Delphi. And then we learned that through recent documents that were made public from the defense that they state that they believed that Kagan Klein's father and Richard Allen did this together. And I'm assuming that's because they had the Anthony Schatz information about meeting Libby there that day. And then you had Kagan Klein actually confessing, most likely at this point, a false confession. So, I mean, I don't blame them for, trying to find that connection. Alan says, "Welcome in, Ellen. I still think that KK was involved on some level. At the very least, he created, owned, and shared the Anthony Schatz account." Yeah, and we saw he was trading CSAM since before 2015 all over Indiana. Who's to say Richard Allen wasn't one of those folks, using a burner phone? I know I told you guys that story where I worked in this office setting, and each room had like 4 different cubicles. And it was me, an older gentleman, and 2 young ladies. And one of the young ladies was married and had 2 kids. Well, she carried a burner phone with her. She had like a whole separate life her husband didn't even know about. She had this burner phone that she kept in her desk, and she would talk to her boyfriend. And her husband would show up to work with the kids. She would hug and kiss them. They would go out to lunch. And then when she got back, she'd pull out this burner phone and she would, make plans with her boyfriend. That shit does happen. Who's to say that Richard Allen didn't have, a secret phone? Maybe, Ellen. Yeah, that's true, TJ. He never really brought up another person. Yeah, it's like no matter what, his life has changed. Alan says, "I also think that the prosecution has some evidence from his car and things from his house." So do I. Badass. Alan constantly talked to the bar owner about the girls if anything new has been discovered. Well, we could go to. Okay, do you guys know what 4chan is? It's like a forum. You can leave anonymous comments there. Well, February of 2022, and I did a video on this if you guys want to go watch it. I think it's Delphi murders, Richard Allen on 4chan or something like that. But remember, this is way before the arrest of Richard Allen. Here's one post. It says, what you all fail, this was February of 2020. What you all fail to interpret about small town civics is the manner in which fall into each other in public square. One cannot find happiness or fortitude with a simple game and keep their daughter safe from such predators. This man will get away with everything. I didn't want to come out and say it, but I lived in Delphi for years. Without a doubt, Richard is not well known in the town. I have been monitoring the thread. City dwellers do not understand how much a place works or local police kinship without community dealings unto itself and more. Plus, do not ask me why the simple man rules outward. So there's somebody stating, providing the name Richard. Says here, without a doubt, Richard is not well known in the town. Right? Well, Richard was not well known in the town. And here's somebody on the Delphi feed talking about Richard. And this is not the only person. Let's continue on. So it caught somebody's attention. So they're responding, Richard, tell us more about Richard. And then they change it, right? No, I meant to say richly. There isn't any Richard. He had nothing to do with it. Let's not pretend police aren't aware. So I think that would be what considered Cobb. Same day, same thread. I'd honestly not be surprised if people were covering it up. Indiana seems like one of the more fucked up flyover states. That wasn't nice. And then they continue on. There isn't any Richard. He had nothing to do with it. How haven't they found this guy yet? Irk. They had a fairly incriminating photo, more than you would get from most killers, and the town isn't big. Everyone in town knows who it is, but we don't report him because he keeps time into specifics. Would you tell your dad if you found a mistaken photo of a juvenile? No. He had no social media presence. Dude is a ghost. And they're asking, what do you mean by he keeps time into specifics? They say he's father time. If he gets locked up, we'll all start moving back in time. So basically, it sounds like they're talking about his timeline, right? He's come forward. He was proactive, and he was accountable for his time on the trails, other than any interaction with the girls. And here's another one from that day. Just because there was a video of Richard on the train tracks doesn't mean he did it. The cops are smart enough to know this and have probably interrogated him already. It was a dead end. Either that or he has connections. It was probably someone from out of town. Who knows, though? So for people to say that nobody suspected Richard Allen, I beg to differ. Here's another comment. Same thread. First for Richard. So, I mean, his name's all over this Delphi thread from February 23rd of 2020. Says, maybe, just maybe, these threads don't need an eternal general where the same shit gets talked over for eternity. Here's another one. There was never any proof that Richard did it just because they took a video of him. Seriously, though, just because he is mentally handicapped doesn't mean he is capable of brutal murder. And somebody's getting pissed off. Who the fuck is Richard? Well, now we know. Says here, Richard definitely did it. Just because he's mentally disabled means nothing. Why else was he hanging out there? The cops know he didn't, but have not been able to build enough evidence on him. So that's very strange. You know, they obviously know who Richard Allen is. He meant to say cops know he did it. And that was a theory that I've had for a while, that they knew that Richard Allen was their number one suspect. They were looking for who helped him. And because of YouTubers leaking out the 40 caliber information, they had to make up the lost tip narrative in order to get the search warrant. Before Richard Allen could destroy the firearm. Here's another one from the same thread. The real red pill about Richard is that he comes from a very wealthy, influential family. That's why the cops won't charge him and have to keep pretending they don't know who did it. They won't even admit that they know who the guy in the video is. So I don't know about wealthy, but in Mexico, I hear that his family was influential in that very small town. Said here, Richard didn't get rid of the bodies. Why would you? The guy in the picture is Richard, a local who was near the scene but was not the killer, most likely. So all those people out there that said Richard Allen was nobody ever suspected Richard Allen of being the guy. This is proof that that's not true. So back in February of 2020, it was all over the place on 4chan. Ellen says, Richard Allen to me is a closeted pedo, always has been, always will be. Possibly. I don't, people can hide that. If you can hide a boyfriend from your husband, somebody that you actively date and communicate with on a daily basis, you can hide the fact that, you're peddling CSAM. Yeah, they're going to see the full video for sure. What's up, Frosty? Says, how is KK not tied to it as of now? Blows my mind. Shit, I don't know. Maybe he's a CI. Maybe he has nothing to do with convicting Richard Allen. Maybe they're using him. Maybe somebody did help with the murders. And he's only part of that, when they're able to bring charges to somebody else. Then they'll pull him in. Because if he can't say, well, I saw Richard Allen there, or we were there to meet Richard Allen, all Kagan says is me and my father, I dropped my father off at the crime scene. He came out of the woods muddy and bloody and told me that he had a good time. But if he's unable to say, well, my father was there with Richard Allen, it's like he's no good in the trial, right? First of all, he's not a credible witness. And he doesn't really have anything to add. Unless the whole Wabash River search plays some, a part in this. We know that the tip narrative was provided the 4th week of the search, so who knows? Possibly, Ellen. Miss Doglover, I personally think there is going to be uncovered about Richard Allen after the trial. A lot of other crimes could surface. Yeah, I don't see this being his first and only time. The Hoosier Harvestor camera thing messes me up because if it was so obvious it was his vehicle, how did no one in law enforcement notice it for 5 years? Hope there was a good reason for how this investigation went down. Yeah, I agree. Remember, they asked for the driver, not the owner of the vehicle. And they didn't bring it up early on. There's part of this that we don't know, and I think it could be the fact that they had their eyes on Richard Allen for a long time. People, I know it's hard to believe, but this kind of shit does happen. And once again, the best example is the David Kallenberger case. Same investigative team is working on that. And they have a witness that has come forward who told them exactly what happened in the case in 2016, who the major players were, and even that they were there and this person helped get rid of the body. Yet none of that information was given out to the public or made public, and no arrests have been made. Still an ongoing investigation. That's very similar to the whole Keegan Kline confessing and, that whole part of it all. Yeah, Heather. Also, I believe that's how they found the shoe in the water. Some searchers followed footprints that led to the shoes and the clothing that they found that was in the creek. What's up, Roxy? Welcome in. Thanks for hitting the thumbs up. I appreciate you. Hiawatha, I'm afraid the defense is going to pull some shit and get a mistrial called. Hope not, but I can see it happening. Well, I think that they had faith that they were going to get Richard Allen off on a technicality. But it looks like so far so good, from the investigative team. They didn't leave any loose ends. Yeah, it does remind me a little bit of the OJ trial. I remember when they took the jury out there to the crime scene. Do you guys, I don't know how old you guys are, but I mean, that was nonstop on television. You had Judge Ito out there with the jury. And everybody was torn. Half the country was like, well, I think he might be innocent. And the other half thought he was guilty. What's up, Mike Cunningham? Welcome in. Yeah, mistrial would be retried. Hey, Peace Train, how you doing? I think so too, badass. How you doing, Patty? If I was a juror, I would want to see the crime scene. I agree with that. I have a feeling they will. I think it's almost necessary. And I feel like the prosecution's acting like they don't want them to go down there, so that the defense team wastes their time arguing about it, But I think the prosecution actually wants that to happen. But if they act like, hey, no, please don't, then they'll just spend all of their time trying to push that through and trying to figure out why the prosecution doesn't want them to do that. They didn't put up much of a fight. They gave some generic reasons. Like, oh, it's private property. Even though they had like every cop in a 100-mile radius on multiple private properties looking for the girls. Hiawatha. Sleuth, I didn't know they could bring up Odinism if it's in the discovery. Makes sense, though. Yeah, they can bring it up. I don't know if they can use the term Odinism, but if they interviewed experts about it, about the crime scene, and that was their testimony, or that was what they said during an interview, they can use that. They just can't tie it into Patrick Westfall or Brad Holder or any of these other people that were named as third-party suspects. But evidence is evidence. But the thing is they don't want to waste their time talking about that if it doesn't fit into a narrative. They're going to want to attack the timeline, try to put Richard Allen somewhere other than the trails after 1:30. Because if they spend too much time ignoring the case that the prosecution's presenting, they're going to lose the trial. Jer, bottom line for me, thinking back through everything I've heard over the last 7 years, I'm very scared that the entire story is not going to come out. And it just has to go deeper than Richard Allen. Well, right now, the evidence doesn't, that's not what it says to me. But like I've always said, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So we can talk a little bit about the timeline. So like I said, at 1:27, you had the girls taking a photograph here at the very moment that they have this, what they believe is Richard Allen's hatchback, caught on camera right here at the Hoosier Harvest Store. Now at about 1:30, Richard Allen's going to pass those three girls, and they're going to walk by him heading towards the Freedom Bridge. One of the girls even says, hello. Hi, how you doing? And he just kind of gave him a dirty look. And also you can see the reason why. If let's say he was looking for a random victim, everybody asks, well, why didn't he attack the three girls? He attacked two girls later on. Well, look how close he is to the main road. This is the main hub of the trail. This is the most public area of that entire system. So this is more of a high risk area for him. It's not, I don't think it's as enticing. I don't know about horseback riding, but he was definitely drinking probably. Maybe even doing some other hard stuff. That's a good question, Ellen. That I don't know. Yeah, somebody did hack his brother-in-law's Facebook. That's a fact. It's possible a car like Allen's drove past the same building. Yep. That's true. They're going to argue that. It's very possible. The jury might agree with that. Badass. Frankie says, I'm eager to see why the strict gag order. We have the bullet, the video, the statement, the confessions, but what's the gag order hiding? It's a good point. I believe the gag order is mainly to protect the prosecution. You know, they're waiting patiently to present their case during the trial. But the defense, on the other hand, you know, they're trying to taint the jury pool. They're trying to change the narrative in the public eye. It's in their interest to leak information. Yep, Heather, that's true. It's very weird, the whole lost tip narrative. Right, there's the timestamp 126. And according to the probable cause affidavit, the black hatchback is caught on the Hoosier Harvest Store video at 127. So he had just driven by right behind these girls. He's parking at the CPS building, and then they snap this photo. Thank you, Sensei. Johnny says, if Richard Allen is found not guilty, there's going to be a lawsuit for him sitting in prison. Yep, and there should be. Right? You kept this man in solitary confinement, quote unquote, for his own security, yet you didn't have enough evidence to convict him. I think they would probably have to drop the charges, maybe. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you can sue them if they're still, actively investigating you. Yeah, definitely, Stephanie. People knew that Richard Allen was out there that day. There's a handful of people that knew he was the bridge guy, but they also knew that he came forward and talked to law enforcement, so I'm sure they were really confused by it. Hey, Jill. Hope they're okay. Yeah. A lot of weird stuff, Shane. You got the lost tip narrative, the lost tip being handed over the 4th week of the search. The day that the search began, they took Keegan Kline into ISP custody. They took him out of jail. They took him to Grissom and they took him to Delphi near the crime scene. Now we know that he actually confessed and told law enforcement that his father had something to do with this. And during his communications with wife Lilith, who is a YouTuber, it appears as if he knows Richard Allen. But the problem is, maybe that's what Keegan Kline wants you to think, right? Keep paying attention to me. Get me out of jail again so I can get another Happy Meal. Double cheeseburger and a milkshake. CJK lost tip as in misfiled. Hopefully we'll learn something more about that. Yeah, and we might. And I'm basically pro law enforcement for the most part, but I just don't buy that tip narrative for a second. And I don't know how you could. Frankie, I think he's guilty of sin, but the 5-year time lapse worries me and maybe the reason he's acquitted. Wish Dan Doolin would have followed that tip up straight away. Well, remember, Richard Allen came forward. So even if, let's say Dan Doolin did, and they've been watching Richard Allen since then, right? Trying to figure out who else was involved. What are they going to say to a judge? How are they going to get a search warrant? They're going to say, well, we got this guy. He came forward. He said he was there around the time the girls disappeared, but that he didn't see them, that he didn't see the victims. The judge is going to say, well, have you spoken with him? Yeah, he called the tip line. Okay, did you interview him? Yeah, he told us he was there, that he saw these 3 girls. Those 3 girls, I believe they saw him. I don't know if that's probable cause. I could be wrong. Maybe just the fact that he was there matching the the suspect description is enough to go get a search warrant. I'm not sure. I just feel like him coming forward played a big part of how he was able to get away for a little over 5 years. It's better that he came forward than them coming looking for him, right? Okay, so at 1:40 you have Betsy Blair. She sees those 3 witnesses walking away from the Freedom Bridge. So now they're near the parking lot or the entrance to, the city of Delphi. So I don't know if they were walking home or if they had a car parked over here. And then according to the probable cause affidavit, you have Betsy Blair pulling up to the Mears lot at 146. Now, we know that it takes exactly about 6 minutes to walk from the Mears lot to the Monon High Bridge. So if she gets there at 1:49, that means that she's running into Richard Allen 6 minutes after that. Yeah, and we don't know what he's about to present, MF. We have no clue. He could have a lot more. Yeah, you might be right, Shane. Hey, Nana, what's up? No. Something happened to it? Badass. Alan said he was on the bridge platform. So we're going to bring up the question here in a little bit. Where the hell was Richard Allen? I mean, they were only 10 minutes behind him. Less than 10 minutes. If Betsy Blair sees Richard Allen at 1:52 on the bridge briefly and turns around, passes the girls, that means that Abby and Libby are just less than 10 minutes behind him. So where is he? Are they on the bridge with him at some point? Is he following Betsy Blair, thinking he might be able to attack her? And then here comes the girls and he says something to them? And that's how he became the creepy guy? And then he, at some point, turns around and starts following them? Heather says guilty is my prediction. I think he's going to plead guilty. When they start showing those crime scene photos in that courtroom, Tonka, this just seems crazy. Why didn't it take this long to get here? There has to be more to it than just Richard Allen. Yeah, there could be. Right now, we're just following the evidence, and I think that Richard Allen could have done this alone. The evidence is telling us that he did, but I would not be surprised. And I'm fighting every ounce of this bias inside me that wants to chase the whole Keegan Kline thing, right? I wanted to chase the whole ritualistic thing because from the beginning, I thought it was some sick ritual. But I have to have some kind of, I've kind of developed some discipline in that aspect or in that regard. Maybe. So right here at about 3:20 is when Betsy Blair would have been passing the girls. That's the halfway point, and they were 3 minutes behind her. So Kelsey dropped them off at 1:49, and Betsy parked at 1:46. So there's only a 3-minute difference, and the girls were probably texting, Facebook posting, trying to figure out where their friends were. Maybe hanging around at that bench for maybe 2 minutes. And then they start walking towards the bridge. So it would have been somewhere in this area that they pass Betsy Blair. And the question is, where the hell is Richard Allen? Is he behind following Betsy Blair? And they're about to pass him? He's kind of stalking Betsy, thinking, oh, I found my target. And then here comes these two young girls, and he changes his mind. Maybe I'll follow them. They're going towards the bridge. Or was he expecting Abby and Libby? And he knew that they would be there that day. And when maybe they were texting on their Snapchat, on, posting some information on Facebook. And Richard Allen's like, okay, they're here. I'm going to hide now. And he's just somewhere here in the trees. Or is he still on the bridge? We know Libby took one photo of the bridge from the first platform. Was Richard Allen behind her? That part's a little confusing. Yeah, you must have it on mute, Nana. "7 years to get away with murder is nothing when compared to the murders who weren't caught until..." Yeah, it's really not. You know, we see some of these cold cases, and we say that all the time on this channel. Some of these cases get solved 30 years down the line. 5.5 years really isn't that bad compared. So it's right at the 6-minute mark here that Betsy's going to see Richard Allen kind of standing right here. She's just going to get a quick look at him, and then she's going to turn around and continue back on her walk. So Betsy's represented in the red. Abby and Libby are represented in the blue. According to the probable cause affidavit, Betsy parks at 146, begins walking towards the Monon High Bridge Trail. We now know that it takes exactly 6 minutes to get from this point here to the bridge. So 6 minutes would be 152. That means that we have Richard Allen on the bridge on the first platform at about 152. We have the girls being dropped off at 149. Most likely hanging out around this area, trying to figure out where their friends went. And they did apparently try to hang out as long as they could and wait for Abby and Libby. But they had already spent quite a bit of time at the trails. They were there like since 12, I believe. 12:30, something like that. So Abby and Libby and Betsy Blair would have crossed paths at about 155. That puts Abby and Libby at the bridge at about 158. So if they're at the bridge at 158 and Richard Allen is at the bridge at 152, we're talking about a 6-minute difference. Where is he? Where the hell is he? That is the question. Here is the lost tip narrative. Right here it says, on September 21st, 2022, Detective Liggett was provided a tip narrative to review. It was from DNR Lieutenant Dan Doolin. So September 21 is exactly 4 weeks into the Wabash River search that was started the same day they took Keegan Kline into custody. Started the same day they took him to Delphi. And also the same day that he apparently confessed to his role in the murders. What does that all mean? Does it mean just some fat piece of shit wanted to get out of jail and get himself a double bacon cheeseburger? So he was willing to lie. He was loving the attention from the murder sheet, from wife Lilith, from everybody else. Is that what his motivation is? I mean, people are very strange. Why else would he confess? I mean, very strange. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. We'll catch up on the chat, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. So if there's anything you want to add, go ahead and put it in here. We're going to kind of blow through here as quickly as possible. That's true, Stephanie. I think so, Mustang. I think that's going to be what we're going to learn about the lost tip narrative, that it really wasn't lost, that they were building a case, and because some key information was being leaked out to the public, Their hand was being forced. Hey, Olivia, how you doing? Shout out to the replay crew. Because he is worried that they will do. Yeah. And maybe Richard Allen is just the kidnapper and the other person is the more hands-on physical killer, right? Maybe Richard Allen's kind of like the Jesse Miss Kelly, where he says one of the boys ran away in the West Memphis 3 case, and he went and chased him down and brought him back. Maybe that's who Richard Allen is, in this case. I think, he's most likely a lone killer, and he doesn't need to be a secondary person, but it could be something like that. I mean, I'm not making it up that Keegan Kline admitted that he had something to do with this. He basically confessed and accused his father of being one of the killers. And he's the creator of the Anthony Shots account. I mean, I don't know how you just go and ignore that, but you also have to ask yourself, why is it not a bigger part of the trial? It's all so weird. GP says Delphi will be ready for court. The town will be guarded very well. Yep, they're already getting everything in order. My honest opinion, he did the unalivings by himself. Yeah, that's what the evidence is telling us. It's just all this other weird stuff going on around it. Like they never really mentioned Richard Allen until the Wabash River search, which is totally connected to Keegan Kline, this person who's confessed. I mean, imagine being an investigator and having to deal with all of this. I call that a conundrum. It could be. I know they found hair and fibers. I know they were doing some digging. Some folks believe it could have something to do with the cat. So maybe they have some more scientific evidence tying them together. Maybe some hair and fibers. There are some rumors about blood being found in the vehicle that belongs to the victims. All I know is that most of the information will come out during the first day of trial during those opening statements. So you can see that in 8 days. 8 days, guys. And we're going to continue to count this down, try to make sense of it all. Peace Train. Doug Carter has always made it seem like there is more to this crime. He always gives provocative statements. I think that's just his nature. His favorite word is complex. It's so complex. It's kind of like a politician's word. Like translation could be, I don't have any answers for you, so I'm going to say my favorite catchphrase. But the whole tentacles thing, that was a little different. Also, he said something along the lines like he's going to continue to work on the Keegan Kline stuff. So a lot of very strange pieces to this puzzle that just really don't make sense. Hopefully during trial they will. Maybe they'll make them make sense. Yeah, that's true. It's happened before. Shane says, Nana, we can hear Sleuth. Yeah, you might have to reload, or you have your volume down, or you might have your Bluetooth connected. Maybe you have your Bluetooth connected to a speaker in another room, or your headphones or something. Yeah, I don't know if 4chan's still up. It might be. I've had those screenshots for a while, like 3 years now. Jer says that 4chan post is wild. Wife Lilith is all over. Who posted that stuff? Thanks, GP. Right back at you. All right, let me zip on down, see if there's anybody I missed. Mike says, let court happen. You mean let the trial happen? Good night, Beth. Yep, it's coming. 8 days. Mentally challenged. We know now that Richard Allen had a whole list of issues. I don't know if we can fit him in that category, but maybe others did. If the death penalty is off the table, he will get life without parole. Better get ready for some man love. Yeah, I don't think that fits the whole mentally handicapped thing. But maybe people just thought that about him. What is CI? What is ACI? It's an informant. And I don't know what the laws are about informants. I don't know if they can keep their information confidential. Confidential informant. I don't know if there's laws. I don't know how that work. I don't know how that works with the defense attorneys. I don't know if you can keep that from them. I'm not quite sure. What's up, Thin Mint? Joey, what's up? Oh, Scrub Report, 79 likes, 150 watching. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Share if you can. Oksana, what's up? Nick will move for a mistrial and Goal will allow it. Thanks for your prediction. Welcome in. No worries. You'll be part of the replay crew. Shout out to the replay crew. SEO Dork for hire. After they got news of his confession, they should have sought the death penalty. Yeah, they definitely would have had more to bargain with. I agree with you on that. I agree. The defense floating baseless conspiracy theories has even the prosecutor questioning his case. He's like, shit, was it? Was it a ritual? Welcome in, Original Badass. Part 1. Think if he doesn't plead early, then he'll go through it and get overturned on appeal just because of not changing the judge. I think they're going to find him guilty. Part 2. I think they were watching him and their hands were forced. Bad area for meth. He admits to being there. Solitary was to keep him safe from himself and others. Yeah, you might be right. Thank you, Mustang. Thank you, Nana, for the super sticker. Shout out to Miss Dog Lover, Sensei, Jer, and Nana. Oh, we got Farmer in the house. Good to see you, Farmer. Welcome in, Fretless Mayhem. Let's go to Frank Rizzo. Can't see how KK is not involved and somehow knows Richard Allen. Yeah, all this is so bizarre. That whole part of it. He talked to the girls the night before and was set to meet them. Then Richard Allen shows up right after the girls get there. I wish I had an explanation for you. I'll just tell you this. I will not be shocked, not even a little bit, if we learn more about that. Not even a tiny fraction of a bit. Yeah, who knows? It's another rabbit hole. Thanks for hanging out, Linda. Appreciate you. Mike says very quiet, almost invisible. That's what I hear. Thank you, Kitty Cat. Always good to see you, Thin Mint. All right, guys. I think we're going to get out of here. Thank you, Shane. All right, guys. That's going to do it. We are all caught up. Appreciate all of you for participating in the chat. And if you're part of that replay crew, well, you know what to do. Drop a comment. We'll get back to you. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, I mean, we can always have the discussion, but we just have to be honest with ourselves, you know? Gotta have a little bit of discipline when covering true crime, I guess. All right. If you guys need to get a hold of me for whatever reason, my email is sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Drop me a line. If you have anything to add, leave a comment. And replay crew, sorry that you missed the live stream, but we'll catch you on the next one. You got it, Joey. All right, guys. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.